There is a kind of sorrow that doesn't scream. It doesn't break things or tear through rooms with loud, crashing chaos. No, this sorrow is quiet. It lingers like a shadow, soft but unyielding, always there in the corner of your heart. It's the kind of sorrow that doesn't come from pain inflicted, but from the pain of not being seen. To give your love, your care, your soul to someone who doesn't value you. It's like watering a dead flower, hoping one day it might bloom again. The more you give, the more you lose. And still you give, believing that maybe, just maybe, your love can awaken what is long gone. But it doesn't. It only deepens the ache. Many are taught that love means holding on, fighting, proving, enduring. That to love someone is to never give up on them. But there is another kind of wisdom, a quieter kind, whispered through the teachings of Zen and echoed in the silence of solitude. That love, true love, is not about possession or proving. It's not about clinging with bleeding hands to something that doesn't reach back. Love is freedom. Love is presence without demand. Love is knowing when to stay and when to let go. In the heart of an old village surrounded by quiet fields, there lived a traveler. His eyes were weary from the road, his lips cracked from thirst, and just as his hope began to dim, he came upon an old stone well. It stood like a promise. Desperate, he rushed forward, lowered the bucket, and waited. But the rope spun freely, never catching water. He tried again, and again. Still nothing. He looked into the well, saw only darkness, and convinced himself that if he waited long enough, water would appear. So he stayed. He tapped the walls gently, whispered into the stones, pleaded. His thirst deepened, but still, he refused to leave. A monk happened upon him, quiet and calm, and observed the strange scene. After a long moment, the monk asked gently, "Why do you sit beside a well that gives you nothing?" The traveler replied, "Because I am thirsty, and I believe this well should give me water." The monk nodded with understanding but replied, "The longer you stay, the more your thirst will consume you. No matter how deep your hope runs, a dry well will never quench it. You must walk away." The traveler hesitated, ashamed and aching, but eventually he stood. And as he walked away, the pain of his thirst was replaced with something else. Clarity. He realized the well hadn't betrayed him. He had betrayed himself by choosing to wait for something that had nothing to offer. That's what it feels like to love someone who does not love you back. It is not your love that is the mistake. It is your choice to pour it where it cannot grow. We think love means staying, but sometimes the bravest, kindest act of love is leaving. There was another tale of a man who ran through golden fields every morning, chasing the wind. He believed that if he could catch it, he would possess its power. He felt it touch his skin, saw it move the grass and carry the birds. So surely, he thought, if it can touch me, I can touch it back. But no matter how fast he ran, no matter how far, he caught nothing. Just air, just the ghost of something beautiful. People laughed at him. "Why chase what can't be caught?" they mocked. But he kept running, until one day he collapsed, knees in the dirt, heart pounding with desperation. And still the wind danced around him, unbothered, free, untouchable. It was then that he understood. The wind could never be his, not because it was cruel, but because it was never meant to be held. In trying to claim it, he had only exhausted himself. This is what happens when we try to force love from someone who does not choose us. When we try to make them care, make them see, make them stay. We become like that man, chasing wind with open hands, thinking love can be earned through effort. But real love cannot be caught. It must arrive freely or not at all. There was once a puppet carved by a master craftsman, delicately made, painted beautifully, dressed in the finest silk. The puppet became famous in the town, admired for the way it danced and moved. But the strings, though invisible to some, controlled its every move. The craftsman tugged and twisted, making it dance when he desired and drop lifeless when he lost interest. The puppet began to feel the weight of these invisible strings. It wished for freedom, for the chance to move on its own. One night, as it sat alone, A stranger passed by and saw the puppet's sorrow. "Cut the strings," the stranger whispered. "But if I do," the puppet replied, "I'll no longer dance." "No," said the stranger with a gentle smile. "You'll no longer be controlled. That is far better than dancing for someone who does not see your soul." So the puppet, trembling but resolute, reached up and cut the strings. It stumbled at first, unsteady without the familiar pull. But soon it found its balance. And for the first time, it moved, not for applause, not for commands, but for itself. This is what emotional detachment feels like. Not the absence of love, but the reclaiming of your own power. When we are emotionally tethered to someone who does not value us, our joy rises and falls with their whims. Their silence makes us feel invisible. Their presence gives us meaning. Their withdrawal unravels us. But that's not love. That's surrendering your entire self to the mood of another. True strength is found in cutting those strings, not with hate, but with grace. Emotional independence is not about indifference. It is about recognizing that your worth does not live in someone else's eyes, that you are not a puppet, that you do not need to be chosen in order to matter. To love someone and still walk away, that is one of the hardest things a heart can do. But it is also one of the most necessary. For in that letting go, you do not abandon love. You choose to love yourself deeply and fully for perhaps the first time. And it is from that love, quiet, powerful, and whole, that true freedom begins. Letting go isn't a moment, it's a process, one that unfolds like morning mist retreating from the warmth of sunlight. At first it's unclear. Your fingers still tremble from the grip you once held so tightly, still aching with the memory of the weight they carried. You want to believe you're free, yet part of you still looks back, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they'll turn around, see your worth, and come running. But they don't, and slowly you begin to realize that their absence isn't the emptiness you feared. It's the beginning of your own presence. The heart, when attached, resists truth. It creates stories, excuses, justifications. It says they were just busy, or they're going through something, or maybe if I try harder, love harder, wait longer. But love is not a negotiation. It's not a puzzle to be solved or a project to be fixed. It is either shared in truth or it isn't. If you are the only one building, nurturing, showing up, then you are not in love. You are in a pattern of longing. And longing is not love. It is hunger dressed in hope. There comes a moment, quiet and sudden, when the heart stops pleading. It doesn't arrive with a shout, but with a sigh that says, enough. Not out of bitterness, but out of weariness. Out of the simple understanding that your love was never meant to be currency, that your presence should not feel like begging, that love should not require you to shrink just to fit into someone else's blindness. The truth is, if someone does not see your value, it is not your duty to show them. Their inability to recognize your worth does not mean you have none. It simply means they are not meant to hold it. You were never meant to be a mirror for someone else's emptiness. You were meant to be a light, not to be dimmed, not to be chased, but to shine, fully and freely. There's a silence that follows the breaking of attachment. At first it can feel like loss, like loneliness, but beneath that silence lies something sacred, a space where you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice that tried to be accepted or understood, but the one that simply is. The voice that was always there, waiting patiently for you to return. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop allowing that love to destroy you. It means you understand that your feelings are valid, but they are not always aligned with what is right for you. You can love someone deeply and still walk away. You can care and still choose yourself. In fact, choosing yourself is the highest form of care you can ever offer to both you and them. Because when love is real, it doesn't chain you. It doesn't ask you to beg. It doesn't watch you fall apart and remain unmoved. Real love is reciprocal. It flows both ways. It is seen, felt, honored. If you have to constantly explain your value, then you are not loved. You are being used. We must learn to stop feeding our worth into empty hands. We must stop dancing for those who do not even look our way. We must cut the emotional strings that tie us to the hope that someone else's recognition will finally make us feel whole. You are not meant to be a puppet. You are not meant to be a prisoner to someone else's disinterest. Emotional detachment is not a rejection of love. It is the realization that love cannot survive where there is no respect. It is the courage to walk away from a table where love is no longer being served. And in doing so, you return to yourself. You reclaim every part of you that was once handed away in hopes of being seen. It is not selfish to choose peace over chaos. It is not cruel to say no to a love that cost you your soul. The world has taught us to romanticize struggle, to idolize sacrifice, to believe that enduring pain is a sign of devotion. But Zen wisdom whispers something else. Let go. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to stop fighting for something that was never yours to carry. This is what emotional detachment feels like. Not the absence of love, but the reclaiming of your own power. When we are emotionally tethered to someone who does not value us, our joy rises and falls with their whims. Their silence makes us feel invisible. Their presence gives us meaning. Their withdrawal unravels us. But that's not love. That's surrendering your entire self to the mood of another. True strength is found in cutting those strings, not with hate, but with grace. Emotional independence is not about indifference. It is about recognizing that your worth does not live in someone else's eyes, that you are not a puppet, that you do not need to be chosen in order to matter. To love someone and still walk away, that is one of the hardest things a heart can do. But it is also one of the most necessary. For in that letting go, you do not abandon love. You choose to love yourself deeply and fully for perhaps the first time. And it is from that love, quiet, powerful, and whole, that true freedom begins. Letting go isn't a moment. It's a process, one that unfolds like morning mist retreating from the warmth of sunlight. At first, it's unclear. Your fingers still tremble from the grip you once held so tightly, still aching with the memory of the weight they carried. You want to believe you're free, yet part of you still looks back, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they'll turn around, see your worth, and come running. But they don't. And slowly you begin to realize that their absence isn't the emptiness you feared. It's the beginning of your own presence. The heart, when attached, resists truth. It creates stories, excuses, justifications. It says they were just busy, or they're going through something, or maybe if I try harder, love harder, wait longer. But love is not a negotiation. It's not a puzzle to be solved or a project to be fixed. It is either shared in truth or it isn't. If you are the only one building, nurturing, showing up, then you are not in love. You are in a pattern of longing. And longing is not love. It is hunger dressed in hope. There comes a moment, quiet and sudden, when the heart stops pleading. It doesn't arrive with a shout, but with a sigh that says, enough. Not out of bitterness, but out of weariness. Out of the simple understanding that your love was never meant to be currency, that your presence should not feel like begging, that love should not require you to shrink just to fit into someone else's blindness. The truth is, if someone does not see your value, it is not your duty to show them. Their inability to recognize your worth does not mean you have none. It simply means they are not meant to hold it. You were never meant to be a mirror for someone else's emptiness. You were meant to be a light, not to be dimmed, not to be chased, but to shine fully and freely. There's a silence that follows the breaking of attachment. At first, it can feel like loss, like loneliness, but beneath that silence lies something sacred, a space where you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice that tried to be accepted or understood, but the one that simply is. The voice that was always there, waiting patiently for you to return. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop allowing that love to destroy you. It means you understand that your feelings are valid, but they are not always aligned with what is right for you. You can love someone deeply and still walk away. You can care and still choose yourself. In fact, choosing yourself is the highest form of care you can ever offer to both you and them. Because when love is real, it doesn't chain you. It doesn't ask you to beg. It doesn't watch you fall apart and remain unmoved. Real love is reciprocal. It flows both ways. It is seen, felt, honored. If you have to constantly explain your value, then then you are not loved, you are being used. We must learn to stop feeding our worth into empty hands. We must stop dancing for those who do not even look our way. We must cut the emotional strings that tie us to the hope that someone else's recognition will finally make us feel whole. You are not meant to be a puppet. You are not meant to be a prisoner to someone else's disinterest. Emotional detachment is not a rejection of love. It is the realization that love cannot survive where there is no respect. It is the courage to walk away from a table where love is no longer being served. And in doing so, you return to yourself. You reclaim every part of you that was once handed away in hopes of being seen. It is not selfish to choose peace over chaos. It is not cruel to say no to a love that costs you your soul. The world has taught us to romanticize struggle, to idolize sacrifice, to believe that enduring pain is a sign of devotion. But Zen wisdom whispers something else. Let go. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to stop fighting for something that was never yours to carry. There is a strength in walking away. I wanted you, but I refuse to keep begging for crumbs when I deserve a feast. Not the kind that roars, but the kind that allows silence to speak louder than pleas. It says, I loved as you move through the process of detachment. There will be days when you falter, when the memories come rushing back like waves, pulling you under. On those days, be gentle. Remind yourself that healing is not linear, that longing is not proof that you made the wrong choice, that love, even when unreturned, still teaches. Every time you choose your peace over their absence, you grow. Every time you redirect your energy back into your own healing, you rebuild. You begin to discover joys you had forgotten, passions you had buried, parts of yourself you had abandoned just to make space for someone else's presence. This journey is not easy, but it is sacred. And in time, you will look back, not with resentment, but with clarity. You will thank the pain for waking you up. You will thank the silence for guiding you home. You will thank the love that wasn't returned for teaching you how to finally return to yourself. Because when you let go of what doesn't serve you, what truly belongs to you begins to find its way. Not through force, but through alignment. Not through need, but through resonance. And that is the love you were always worthy of. There will come a moment when the echoes of the past begin to fade, not because they disappear, but because your heart no longer clings to them. You'll find yourself waking up and realizing that the heaviness has lifted, even if just a little. The absence that once hollowed you now becomes a space for breath, for clarity. You'll sit alone in a room that once felt unbearably quiet and discover that silence is not your enemy. It is your sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, you will begin to build again. You'll stop asking, what did I do wrong? And instead begin asking, what do I need to heal? Because you'll see it clearly then, that love is not something to be earned by suffering, that your worth is not a riddle someone else must solve, that the pain you felt was never about not being enough, but about giving your everything to someone who never truly received it. You'll stop trying to change the narrative. You'll no longer search for explanations in their absence or meaning in their silence. You'll accept that not everything broken needs to be fixed, especially not you. The heart, in its innocence, often believes it can love someone enough to make them stay. But the truth is, love must be met. It must be held, respected, returned. Otherwise, it becomes a silent scream echoing through your soul. You can't keep pouring into someone who only ever receives. Love is not a transaction, but a communion, a sacred dance where both offer, both receive, both grow. When only one gives, it's no longer love, it's sacrifice. And when sacrifice becomes your way of surviving a relationship, you're not in love, you're in pain. There's power in seeing clearly, in looking at someone you once adored and understanding that they may have mattered, but they were not meant to stay. That no matter how beautiful the memory, it cannot sustain your present. That no matter how deep the connection once felt, if it no longer nourishes you, it is okay to release it. Letting go does not erase the past. It simply honors the truth of the present. And truth is the most loving thing you can give yourself. You will have moments of doubt. You'll wonder if maybe you let go too soon, if you should have held on a little longer, tried a little harder. These are the echoes of old stories. the ones that taught you to equate love with endurance, with struggle, with proving. But real love doesn't need to be convinced. It sees you, it hears you, it chooses you, freely and without conditions. Think of the man who chased the wind. He believed that if he just moved fast enough, reached far enough, he could hold it in his hands. But the wind was never his to hold. It existed on its own terms, untouched, unclaimed. And all his running, all his desperation, only exhausted him. The same is true for unreturned love. No matter how much you chase it, it remains just out of reach. Because love cannot be caught. It can only be shared. And when it isn't shared, you're left breathless, not from joy, but from exhaustion. There's a kind of quiet strength that comes from finally letting go. The kind that doesn't shout or seek applause. It simply breathes easier, walks lighter, feels deeper. You may not notice it at first, but it will grow within you like roots beneath the soil, steady, unseen, unshakable. And then one day something beautiful happens. You begin to protect your peace like you once protected a person who didn't deserve it. You begin to say no, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You begin to choose rest over rumination, presence over pleading. This is the essence of emotional detachment. It is a quiet knowing that your heart deserves to be held with care. It is understanding that you are no longer willing to beg for crumbs when you have the power to prepare your own feast. Detachment is not abandonment, it is alignment. It is coming back to yourself piece by piece until you are whole again. You'll notice how much energy returns to you. The time you spent overthinking their silence becomes time you now spend in your own company, creating, healing, living. The space that once felt so barren now becomes sacred ground for your growth. You begin to reconnect with who you were before you made yourself small to fit into someone else's absence. You remember your own laughter, your own rhythm, your own dreams. You remember that you are not a puzzle missing a piece. You are a whole picture, never meant to be completed by someone else. And slowly your heart begins to beat for yourself again, not in arrogance, but in quiet reverence for the journey you've walked. You learn that closure doesn't always come from them. Sometimes it comes from you choosing to stop asking for answers that won't arrive. Sometimes it's the moment you look in the mirror and say, I've had enough, I deserve more, I am enough. In this stillness, something profound takes root, a peace that doesn't come from circumstances, but from choice. The choice to no longer tie your self-worth to someone else's inability to value you. The choice to stop watering a love that never bloomed. The choice to believe that your future holds more than your past ever could. And in that peace, you begin to blossom. Not for them, not for anyone else, but for yourself. You start showing up in your life again, not as a version someone else preferred, but as your truest self, whole, wild, unapologetically you. Because the most powerful love story you will ever live is the one you write with yourself. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you stop asking, why didn't they love me? And start asking, why did I believe their love was necessary for my worth? It's not an easy shift. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's the beginning of something sacred, the return to your own center, your own truth. It's the moment you take the shattered pieces of your heart not to offer them again to someone careless, but to hold them gently in your own hands, whispering, I've got you now. The stories we carry about love are heavy with the weight of misunderstanding. We're told that love means sacrifice, that to endure is noble, that to let go is failure. But endurance is only virtuous when it serves your spirit. Staying where you are diminished is not loyalty. It is abandonment of self. The heart, when left unheard, starts to wither quietly. Not all wounds bleed loudly. Some simply fade us until we forget who we are. But then comes a moment, like the rising sun after a long storm, when you look in the mirror and can no longer ignore your own absence. You see the outlines of a person who gave too much, waited too long, and forgot to leave space for themselves. And it hurts. Oh, it hurts. But that pain is sacred. It is the pain of awakening, of being called back home to yourself. There is nothing noble about staying where you are not seen. There is nothing romantic about proving your worth to someone who refuses to look. Love, real love, does not ask you to disappear in its name. It asks you to be whole and to meet another who is whole and together to grow, not as saviors, but as companions. Think again of the puppet with cut strings. It once danced beautifully, but only at the pull of another. When the strings were cut, it stumbled, unsure of how to move. That stumble is real. It happens to us too. We spend so long moving to the rhythm of someone else's approval that when we are finally free, we don't know what to do with ourselves. We wobble, we hesitate, we miss the pull, even if it hurt, because it was familiar. But then something incredible happens. We begin to find our own balance, our own pace. We begin to realize that we were never meant to be controlled, that our value isn't tied to how well we perform for someone else, but in how fully we can stand on our own. That's what emotional detachment offers, not the erasure of love, but the end of enslavement. It says, I can love you and still walk away. I can care and still choose peace. I can miss you and still honor myself. The pain of being undervalued is sharp because it hits at the core of what we all long for: to be seen, to be known, to matter. But being unseen by someone else does not mean you are invisible. It means they are not the one meant to witness you. Stop trying to shine in front of those who have chosen to close their eyes. Your light is not wasted, it is simply misplaced. Redirect it inward. Let it illuminate the parts of you that have long been neglected, the dreams you silenced, the parts you softened, the needs you postponed. Let it guide you back to joy that is not dependent on another's presence, but that lives in your breath, your choices, your spirit. Emotional detachment is the art of letting go without turning your heart to stone. It is choosing to no longer be defined by someone else's inability to love you well. It is releasing the burden of waiting, of hoping, of bending just to be held. It is the reclamation of your time, your energy, your soul. It may feel like loss, but what you are losing is only the illusion of love. The version that kept you small, kept you waiting, kept you questioning your worth. What you are gaining is truth, and truth is always a gift, even when it arrives wrapped in grief. There will still be days when you feel the pull, when memories wrap around your ribs and make it hard to breathe, when you hear a song or see a place or dream a dream that still has their name etched into it. That's okay. Healing is not about pretending it never mattered. It's about knowing that it mattered and choosing peace anyway. Forgive yourself for staying too long. You did what you knew. You loved with a full heart. You gave all you had. There is no shame in that. The only shame would be in refusing to grow from it. And so you grow, not in defiance, but in devotion to yourself, to your future, to the version of you that is no longer willing to be half-loved. In time, the detachment will no longer feel like absence. It will feel like space. Space to breathe, space to bloom, space to finally hear your own heartbeat, strong and steady, no longer racing to chase someone else's. And one day when love arrives again, and it won't ask you to abandon yourself. It won't come as a storm to uproot you, but as sunlight to nurture your roots. You will know the difference because you will be different. You will meet that love not with desperation, but with wholeness. Not with fear, but with clarity. Until then, keep walking. Keep choosing yourself. Keep remembering that letting go is not losing. It is finding your way back to the one person you were always meant to love most, yourself. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop seeking closure from someone else and instead create it within yourself. It doesn't look like a grand announcement or a dramatic ending. It looks like a quiet decision made in the stillness of your own mind. The decision to stop asking why, to stop waiting for an apology, to stop hoping for them to finally understand. Because closure was never about their explanation, it was about your liberation. And that liberation begins when you no longer let someone else's treatment of you dictate how you feel about yourself. It begins when you draw the line and say, I will not let your absence define my presence. I will not let your silence drown out my voice. You begin to understand that your healing doesn't require their validation. Your growth doesn't need their acknowledgement. Your peace is not a gift they can give. It is a power you reclaim. Sometimes the heart doesn't want to let go because it still believes in the potential of what could have been. It clings to memories, to glimpses of warmth, to the way they once smiled at you like you were their whole world. But memory is not reality, and potential is not proof. You must stop falling in love with the idea of someone while ignoring the reality of how they show up. Love that asks you to overlook your own needs is not love. It is self-abandonment dressed in longing. There is a reason the wound reopens every time they ignore you, every time you hope and they disappoint. It's because your spirit knows you're reaching for something that doesn't reach back. You are extending grace to someone who doesn't even see your outstretched hand. And you deserve more than that. You deserve to be held, not tolerated, to be chosen, not settled for. It takes courage to admit that someone you love may not be capable of loving you in the way you need. It takes strength to see that no matter how much effort you put in, you cannot teach someone how to value what they've never learned to appreciate. And it takes self-respect to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. There is beauty in grieving the love that was never returned, because in that grief, you clear the space for something new to grow. You empty your heart not into despair, but into readiness. You are not closing yourself off to love. You are opening yourself to better love. Love that doesn't make you question your worth. Love that doesn't ask you to wait in silence. Love that meets you where you are and says, I see you, I choose you, not in pieces, not in parts, but in your entirety. Think of the man who sat beside the dry well, waiting for water that never came. His thirst wasn't the mistake. His choice to remain there, ignoring the emptiness, was. There's nothing wrong with wanting love. The nights you stayed up trying to make sense of their silence, the days you questioned everything about yourself. But you'll know. You'll know that choosing yourself was not a moment of weakness. It was your greatest act of strength. There's an art to letting go. It doesn't require force. It doesn't require forgetting everything beautiful. It requires surrender, soft and steady. It means allowing the memories to exist without letting them anchor you in place. It means opening your hands, not because you no longer care, but because holding on has become too painful. It means walking away, not because you gave up, but because you finally realized you were giving too much. The person who was blind to your value does not define your worth. Their inability to cherish you does not mean you are unlovable. It simply means they weren't meant to hold your heart. Not everyone you love is meant to stay. Some people are lessons wrapped in longing. Others are mirrors showing you where you need to heal. And a few, a rare few, are blessings you'll meet when you stop settling for less. You begin to recognize the difference between attention and affection, between presence and investment. You learn that someone texting you at midnight doesn't mean they value you. It means they remember you when it's convenient. You learn that real love doesn't come with confusion. It feels safe. It feels consistent. It grows, it shows up, it builds. You stop giving people access to your heart just because they ask nicely. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop waiting for someone to choose you while you continue choosing them. You reclaim your energy like sacred currency, investing it only in places that multiply your peace. And in doing so, you create space for love that's rooted in respect, for relationships built on reciprocity, for connection that doesn't drain you. You make room for the kind of bond that doesn't make you question your worth every day. The kind that sees you fully, hears you completely, and meets you exactly where you are. There will still be whispers of the past. Moments when doubt taps you on the shoulder and says, "Are you sure you made the right choice?" Let it speak, let it pass, and then return to the truth. You chose peace over pain. You chose self-worth over sacrifice. You chose healing over holding on. Because you now understand that walking away is not a sign that you stopped loving them. It's a sign that you finally started loving yourself. You stopped waiting at a dry well. You stopped chasing the wind. You cut the strings that once made you dance for approval. And in doing so, you found your footing. You learned to walk on your own, not perfectly, not without stumble, but with strength born from choosing yourself again and again. And every step you take from here is a step toward the life you deserve. You'll begin to notice how much lighter your soul feels when you are no longer burdened by someone else's indifference. There's a kind of freedom that doesn't come from being loved by another, but from unburdening yourself of the love you gave to the wrong person. That doesn't mean you were wrong for loving. It means you were brave enough to offer your heart. But courage must also be accompanied by wisdom. And wisdom is knowing when to give and when to stop giving where nothing grows. You see, love is not just an emotion. It is an energy. It flows, it moves, it transforms. But when it hits a wall, when it's poured into a vessel with cracks that refuse to be mended, it begins to deplete you. You find yourself tired not from loving, but from the effort of sustaining something that isn't being returned. That kind of exhaustion seeps into your bones. It clouds your vision. It makes you question everything beautiful about yourself. But when you choose to detach, not with malice but with peace, you take that energy back. And where once your heart felt like a battlefield, it begins to feel like a sanctuary. You don't need to shout about it. You don't need to prove anything. The healing speaks for itself. The quiet joy in your laughter, the calm in your breath, the softness in your gaze. These things will become the loudest testament to your strength. People might not understand your journey. Some may wonder why you distanced yourself, why you stopped answering calls, why you don't seem as eager to explain anymore. Let them wonder. You owe no one an explanation for choosing your peace. What they see as silence is actually your boundary. What they call detachment is your reclaiming. And what they interpret as coldness is, in truth, the warmth you've begun to reserve for yourself. There will be moments still when the past beckons. A memory may surface with such tenderness that it catches you off guard. A scent, a sound, a glance at an old message may stir the ache again. You are not weak for feeling that. You are not regressing. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. You return to the pain, but each time with more understanding, more softness, more strength. The love you offered was not wasted. It shaped you. It revealed the depth of your heart. It taught you what it means to care deeply. And it showed you that you are capable of profound connection. That's a gift. But the lesson is this: not everyone is capable of receiving that depth. And that's not your failure. That's their limitation. You no longer have to carry the burden of making someone else see your light. The sun doesn't beg to be seen. It simply rises, and those who are meant to feel its warmth will come out to greet it. In the same way, your love doesn't need to be proven. It simply is. And the right hearts will recognize it without force. You begin to rebuild, not out of revenge, not out of spite, but out of love. Love for the person you were before you gave yourself away. Love for the dreams you set aside. Love for the peace you forgot was even possible. Every boundary you set now is an act of self-respect. Every moment of stillness is a step deeper into your own presence. It's not about pretending you never cared. It's about caring in a way that doesn't cost you your soul. It's about choosing connections that nourish you, conversations that inspire you, relationships that see you. You're not looking for perfect. You're looking for true. And in order to find that, you must first be true to yourself. And so, day by day, you rise. You learn to take up space again, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. You stop minimizing your needs. You stop hiding your brilliance. You stop apologizing for being whole. You begin to realize that your worth was never tied to someone's ability to see it. It has always existed, unshaken, untouched, eternal. When you walk into a room now, you do so with quiet confidence, not because you're trying to be seen, but because you've seen yourself. You've faced your fears, sat with your pain, held your own heart in the darkest hours. That kind of intimacy with yourself changes you. It grounds you in ways applause never can. And then one day someone may enter your life, not to fill a void, but to walk beside you. They won't be drawn to the version of you that tries to impress. They'll be drawn to your stillness, your peace, your truth. They will feel your energy not as a demand, but as an invitation. They will not try to complete you because they'll recognize you are already whole. But even if that person never arrives, you'll know this: you are no longer chasing love. You are embodying it. You've become the very thing you once sought. And that is the most powerful transformation of all. So keep loving yourself with the same passion you once gave to others. Keep choosing peace, even when it feels lonely. Keep honoring your worth, even when others fail to. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not hard to love. You are learning, growing, returning, and most of all, you are free. Eventually, you'll look back on everything. The ache, the clinging, the long nights spent wondering what more you could have done. And you'll feel something unexpected. Gratitude. Not because it didn't hurt, not because you deserved the pain, but because that pain opened the door to something deeper. It led you back to yourself. Every time you begged to be chosen, every time you waited for a message that never came, every time you questioned your worth through the lens of someone else's absence, it was preparing you for this moment. The moment you stopped asking for love outside of yourself and started embodying it within. You'll realize that the love you were trying so hard to receive was actually a reflection of the love you were withholding from yourself. That the endless effort to be enough for someone else stemmed from a wound within that quietly whispered, "Maybe I'm not enough on my own." But you are. You always were. You just forgot. And now you're remembering, slowly, softly, powerfully. The journey of detachment isn't about removing all emotion. It's about recentering emotion. It's about turning inward what was once poured outward without return. It's a reclamation, not just of energy or attention, but of identity. You stop defining yourself by who stayed or who left. You stop tying your value to how someone else treats you. You begin to see that the real love story was never about them. It was about you, learning to hold yourself in the absence of what you once thought was love. Letting go isn't passive, it's fierce, it's not giving up, it's choosing alignment over desperation. When you walk away from someone who doesn't value you, you are not rejecting them. You are embracing your own truth. You're saying, this version of love, the one that makes me question my worth, is not the love I will accept anymore. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. You start to see how many places in your life were filled with shadows. Shadows created by waiting. There's nothing wrong with being thirsty for connection, care, tenderness, but you cannot quench that thirst in a place that holds nothing for you. Waiting at a dry well doesn't make you loyal, it makes you lost. You must become your own well. You must learn to quench your thirst in the richness of your own self-worth. To sit with your emotions, to feel the ache, to cry when you need to, but never to hand your soul to someone who doesn't know how to hold it. The person who is meant for you will not make you beg for love. They will not treat your presence like an option. They will not need convincing to see your light. Until that person comes, and even after, they are not your job. You are. Your healing is your responsibility. Your peace is your priority. Your worth is your foundation. Build it strong enough that nothing and no one can shake it again. Let your life become a sanctuary where you are no longer waiting to be enough, because you already are. It's okay to miss them. It's okay to remember the good moments. It's okay to wish it could have been different. But do not let that longing pull you back into a place that drained you. Nostalgia has a way of softening the edges of pain, but you must remember the whole truth. Not just the beauty, but the absence. Not just the warmth, but the cold. You left for a reason. Honor that. You will stumble. Some days will feel heavier than others. There will be moments when your heart whispers, "What if?" and your mind wants to answer. In those moments, pause, breathe, remind yourself of everything you've walked through, of how far you've come. You are not going backwards. You are reclaiming your path. And on that path, you will discover the kind of love that doesn't require you to beg, the kind that sits beside you in silence and sees you fully. The kind that doesn't arrive to complete you, but to walk beside the already complete you. That kind of love starts with you. So keep letting go. Keep releasing the need to be understood by those who never really listen. Keep choosing your peace over their presence. Keep walking, not with anger, but with quiet certainty. Because every step away from what hurt you is a step toward what will heal you. And one day, without warning, you'll wake up and realize you no longer miss them. You no longer ache for their validation. You no longer feel that pull, not because the memories vanished, but because you've grown beyond them. Because you filled the space they left with something far more powerful, yourself. You'll begin to realize that healing is not about forgetting. It's about remembering differently. The person who once made your heart flutter may still visit your thoughts. Their name may still echo in places you used to call yours together. But the difference is, it no longer unravels you. The ache no longer feels like a wound. It becomes a quiet reminder of how deeply you can feel, how fully you once loved, and how resilient you are to have let that love go when it became a prison. There's grace in walking away. Not out of anger, not as a punishment, but as a gentle farewell to what no longer serves your soul. It's saying, I love myself too much to keep waiting for you to love me. It's not bitterness, it's clarity. It's choosing not to spend another moment shrinking, doubting, bending, trying to be enough for someone who could never see your fullness. Letting go is not an end, it's a beginning. It's the first step in rediscovering who you are without the weight of someone else's neglect. You begin to pour your energy inward. You start waking up without checking your phone, without scanning for their name in the silence. You replace anxiety with rituals, slow coffee in the morning sun, walks in the quiet of nature, music that speaks to your healing. You return to hobbies you left behind, call old friends you forgot you missed, write words that have been buried beneath longing. Slowly, your world stops revolving around their absence and begins to orbit around your own presence. You start to laugh again, not the kind that masks your pain, but the real kind. The laughter that sneaks up on you while watching the sky shift from blue to gold. The laughter that bubbles out when you catch your reflection and realize you're glowing again. Not because someone is loving you, but because you've remembered how to love yourself. You see, detachment doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens in 1,000 small ones. It's the decision not to answer the text you know will lead to nowhere. It's the moment you hear their favorite song and don't feel the need to cry. It's walking past the places you used to go together and feeling peace instead of pain. These are the milestones no one claps for, but they matter. These are the quiet triumphs of your healing. Some people will never know what it cost you to stop reaching out. They'll never feel the weight of the tears you cried alone.